Rebecca. Thank you for coming on the Mind Talk podcast. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Rebecca Williamson. I'm a leadership development consultant, but I also work with women in the motherhood space.
Hi, Rebecca. So you talk about leadership, and I spoke to you and I saw your LinkedIn profile where you've recently completed a HYROX. And
Yeah,
to me, that is really connecting with the leader within because nobody can make you do something like a HYROX, right? So did you do it by yourself or did you have a partner to do it?
yeah. So this time I did it by myself. I have done it previously with my partner, my husband. We did mixed doubles, and then I've done it with a group of 4 girlfriends. So it has become a bit of a thing in my mind. I thought maybe I'm going to tick off the solos. But yeah, it was quite a grueling experience, but one that honestly I'll never forget. That's why as soon as you mentioned it, my smile goes from ear to ear because yeah, I'm very proud of it.
And I loved your LinkedIn post about it where you said, no quotes, no motivational
Yeah,
quotes, nothing, just happy. Tell me
yeah.
that feeling. Tell me that feeling.
Oh, oh my God. Yeah, there's a few things behind that. I think for me, in all honesty, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to complete
Mhm.
it. I definitely have this inner critic voice that was quite loud right up until the minute we set off. That was saying, "Oh, you're going to be able to do it. You're going to be able to finish it. Are you sure you haven't trained as hard as you should have? All the shouldas, should. And honestly, I think the completing it, but the parts around it, like the barriers that I hit, I definitely hit a mental block on the burpees, and then on the lunges, I felt really sick. And I just pushed through. And I honestly was so proud that I stretched myself that far. I didn't know that I had that capability to go even further. I've not pushed myself in a sporting environment like that before, and I did, and I felt so proud of it. And that's why when I put it on LinkedIn, I mean, LinkedIn is very awesome for connections, networking, building your brand, um, and sharing stories that are really important to you. But I do sometimes feel that there always has to be a reason for you posting that is linked to your brand and what you do. And honestly, I just wanted to say I'm so proud of myself, and it's okay for people to say I'm really proud of myself. And that was exactly why I said it in that sentence. And I also posted all the photos where I was smiling because that was one of the things that got me round. It is obviously a very serious sport for some people, and I wholeheartedly respect that. And but for me, it was about doing something very hard that I didn't think I would do and enjoying it as much as I could.
So this is your third time doing it. The first time you did it
Yeah.
with your husband. How was that experience different of you really becoming your own champion, bucking yourself up every day to go and do the training? And we'll come to your training part later. But I really want to
Yeah.
understand how did you work on that, on your mind about it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'll keep saying I'll be really honest. Maybe I'll just put a disclaimer. Everything I say is just coming out of my mouth. Really, really honest. Yeah. For me, I have, like I said, quite a strong inner critic when it comes to sports, when it comes to physical exertion. I do have this voice in my head that tells me, "Oh, you're not fit enough. You've not trained enough. You're not going to be able to do it." And in sport, it's just always been there, even from a childhood. I never won races. I was always kind of second to last or last. Yet my parents would be there cheering me on. So I've always had a bit of self-doubt when it comes to exerting myself in a sporting way and trying to achieve and get on a podium. I don't think I've ever been on a podium. So for me, when I was going round, I suppose, the actual track, I just kept thinking about what an incredible thing I am doing for me. So I've had a very, very challenging last year,
Mm-hmm.
and every part of me on that track was just pushing forward to prove that no matter what goes on outside of my world, I am doing something for me and that I can complete and that I can do. And it's okay if I'm not first. It's okay if I'm last. It's actually that I've done it, I've showed up, I've turned up, and I've put my all into it because I wasn't actually able to train as much as I'd like. So it was the conversation in my head around, think of the bigger picture here, Becca. You have had so much going on and you are here. You've got your trousers on, you've got your HYROX t-shirt on, you've got your gels in your pocket, you've showed up. And that was just really important to me, to just push through and just give it a go and see what happens. And yeah, so I was really proud that I listened to that side of my voice and my brain more than I did the inner critic. But the inner critics they're always going to be there. You know, they're there to push you as well, right? To say, no, be quiet. But yeah, the other voice came through much louder. And I thought, who do I really want to be now? Who do I want to be for my kids now? One of my son was there. My youngest was there. So that was also a really awesome, motivator.
It's funny how you said that the inner critic is always going to be there. And to me, of course, my inner critic is always there. And it's really how you interact with your inner critic, right? Are you willing to shun that inner critic away, or are you really asking the inner critic, what is it that you're trying to save me from? Or what is it, that you're going to be like, oh, I'll show you. You mentioned that as a child, you were not into sports. And that really resonates with me because growing up in India, we were never really the concept of sports and girls doing sports, at least where I came from, was so foreign. And then when recently, 8 years ago, I started playing tennis, and it's been the most inspiring time, fun time. The tennis court is my happy place.
Love that. I
So,
love that.
thank you. So I know what you mean by that critical voice coming up. It was probably your younger self telling you, Rebecca, what are you doing? We don't do this.
Yeah, you won't be able to do it. Other people do this better than you. What do you think you're doing? It was my inner critic definitely has got slightly kinder to me over the years because I have done a lot of inner work with
Mm-hmm.
therapists and really wholeheartedly recommend doing that. But it's still just there, like you said, as a reminder, as a protector. Well, if you don't complete this, then what are you going to tell people? What would be your LinkedIn post if you couldn't do it? Would you post? It's like, and again, it's all of these conversations in your head that I now feel very comfortable
Mm.
having and trying to integrate and trying to let the critic have her chance, have her opportunity to say what she thinks, and then actually me saying, I hear you, but this time I'm going to give this a go.
Yeah.
I do think it totally stems back to the experiences in my childhood. And I had people around me who were so much more sporty than me, achieved so much better than me academically, in the sports realm. And so, and my family were into sports, but they were into what I call slow sports, like golf, and now into bowls, So we weren't like a athletic family. My family won't mind me saying,
Yeah. So tell me what a HYROX race looks like.
It was in the Asia Expo, and it's this huge kind of like what looks like a bit of a racetrack on the outside, and that is your 1K. And so you do a 1K, and then you go into a station, and then you do a certain length of that station. So, for example, the first one was a ski erg, and you have to do 1,000 meters. But at every station, you have like referees who are watching and checking that you're completing and that you're not kind of going outside of your lane or your box. So those metaphors of stay in your lane, concentrate on your own lane. It's in real life in HYROX, right? You have these boxed white strips of tape that are telling you to stay in your lane, because if you don't stay in your lane, you get penalized. In life, you could say that's the same thing as well, right? If you don't focus on yourself and you drift off to other people's lane, you get distracted. But so yeah, so each station needs to be fully completed, and then you run and do another K, and then you do another station. So along the way, there are people handing you water. There were people spraying us for cramp, because a few people, I got cramp at points. But it's a solo sport. So yes, if you're doing it as a double, you are staying together because you have to stay together, and you tap in and out. So you share the load, but you kind of you can do it however you like. But when you're solo, you are sort of going around on your own. And so there were points where I would just smile at people, or I would clap at people, or I would be like, let's go, you know, because honestly, I needed it myself. And when I was running around the track and I see people like waving for other people, I'd just be smiling and waving at them, even if I didn't know them. It definitely could do with a bit more camaraderie, sort of, yay, but there were people that were doing that. It's probably, it feels when you're doing it on your own that you are quite alone, and you're obviously alone in the actual exercise. So when it starts to feel like it burns and it hurts, there's nobody for you to tap in and out. It's just for you to take a breather, take a step, and then go again when you can. So yeah, so you do that eight stations, and then 8 runs, and then you finish. The last station is a wall balls, where you throw the ball up a certain height, and you have to squat all the way down, and there are people there telling you to squat lower 100 times. And then if you can, because I just about, if there was a video of me, I'm like jelly running to the podium after, because my legs were just so done. But I was just so elated. I got in the queue for the photo with this lady who was behind me, and she was like, right, done, tick that off. And I didn't say to her, like, I want to do it again. Like, I didn't want to do it again right there and then, but I want to do it again. Like the the serotonin was shooting through the roof for me. So yeah, I probably didn't fully answer the question. I went really off on a tangent, but yeah, I just enjoyed it so much. I will do it again.
So which was your favorite station then?
I would say the rowing. So that was when to be honest, that was when my son turned up. So my son, who's 2.5, my husband was there, and then my helper and her girlfriend had come along. And so they had shown up, and they were the other side. So basically I was rowing and could see them, and I could see my son's face. It was a little bit of confusion there, you know, so what's mommy doing? But now now he does the action. And he does all the high fives, because we were high fiving around and stuff. So yeah, that was my favorite. I think I could see them, and they just made me think, right, let's do this. I've got to do it. I'm going to do it.
So at the start of the podcast, you mentioned that you went through a very difficult time this past year, and then you wanted to do HYROX for yourself. So, of course, when you were going through the difficult time, you took this decision to do the HYROX. You had to train. You had to then find the time to train. And I'm just assuming, and correct me if you're wrong, probably there were mornings when it was really horrible and you're like, no, I just want to stay in bed. But you got up and you went out and trained. What was that discipline? What did that look like? What was the process of it all?
So yeah, it's a really good question. So the last year has probably been the most challenging year of my life and my family's life so far. My husband has been diagnosed with a mental health illness, and it was all quite new to us. We were actually traveling at the time, and he got very unwell physically. He suffers from an autoimmune disease, and then he got very, very unwell mentally. So we had to come home from traveling abroad back to Hong Kong home. And that was in September of last year. And also, it's quite difficult to travel with 2 children under 5, I will say. So the difficulty started around this time last year. And honestly, I needed to have something for myself. Being in a relationship, in a family dynamic where there are people that really, really rely and need you on a daily basis, multiple times a day, small children, partners, it is really hard to find time to do something for yourself. And yet I needed just one something. Like I needed something that I knew that would push me and that would actually give me some focus. And there were so many times I had to cancel due to things going on at home. So many times I was a no-show. But the times that I could, I knew that I had to for my own mental well-being.
It's interesting because you know what's coming to me? You could have easily chosen going for a coffee date by yourself. So what
Yeah.
about this really attracted you?
I had become everybody else's carer and, you know, support system. And I kind of lost a little bit as to who I am. I'm always telling people how, you know, to stand up for yourself, self-advocate, think about who you are, who your brand is. It was so hard for me to do that for myself. So this had to give me a sense of me back. Like I literally feel like I got a part of me back in having something like this to focus on. I'm a believer in resolutions. I'm a believer in goals. I know that term gets a bit, you know, a bit of a bad name now, but really I do. And I thought, right, this year in December, what do I want to look back knowing that I've done, that I've survived, that I've thrived, and these are the places that I've done it in. So
How was could you also run me through your training session?
there's actually a bear camp on Llama, which is an outdoor exercise space. And we would run and train a HYROX style exercise class. So it would be about an hour and 15 minutes. We would do a station and then run, a station and then run, and station and run. And we would do that when it got closer to May 8th, we were doing it twice a week. And then prior to that, I was going to perhaps one or two of her sessions every 2 weeks. Again, it depended on where I was needed at home. And then I did try some runs. I tried running along the harbour front. Some mornings I would get up really early, get the ferry over to Central and run along the harbour front. But again, those were just not sustainable with two young children, a very unwell partner. And my son goes to school, you know, on Hong Kong Island. There was just too many logistics. So it did go at the wayside to start. But as we got closer, it was like twice a week at least doing that bear camp HYROX. And I live up 100 stairs. My son is 16.5 kg. My other son is probably within early 20s. And I carried them up those stairs. So any time that I was coming up those stairs, I was thinking, training, especially in this heat as well.
What did you find out about yourself? How and your relationship with discomfort and challenges?
When I had both my boys, I definitely had a bit of a struggle finding back to who I was. I had postpartum anxiety with both boys, and so I had to go on medication and really do a lot of deep therapy work just to get me out of that. And when I started to feel better, that was 2024. Things again then started to sort of unravel elsewhere in my life for my partner. So I think when I think about me, is that this whole experience has made me realize that I am a lot stronger physically and mentally. I am okay with having some of this inner critic, self-doubt sometimes, and I am really proud and okay that I can talk to that and that I can show that to my boys. I can talk with that with my husband. This is me trying my hardest, but also knowing that I'm not always going to get it right. Knowing that sometimes I'm going to feel a little bit sick and sometimes I'm going to feel a little bit anxious. We're only on this planet once. And as long as I'm feeling like I'm living as much of me as possible, then I'm proud of that and I feel happy. And when the challenges come, I feel stronger to face them, if I'm really honest.
You've said that you feel really strong and you know the strength that you carry within. But I also hear is there's like almost a balance where you know your strength, but you also know you're vulnerable and you're willing to walk with both of those. And what does post-HYROX look like for you now?
But honestly, post HYROX is when can I get to my next HYROX to do a solo again? And I think it would have to be Hong Kong, because something I mentioned, but honestly, the support system, having people I knew there watching, waving, you know, high-fiving, and it being family made so much of a difference. And it's now on record. I promise. I will do it.
And here's wishing you the best of luck for that. Keep
Thank
going.
you.
And your attitude towards what a me time looks like is brilliant. And I love the discipline and the strength that you brought in all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fishy. Thanks for having me.